I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of Bophelong, your weekly program about ordinary folk who take on and conquer life's challenges. My name is Refilwe Muilwa. Share your thoughts about the show with us, and if you know of anyone who lives their life every single day as a conqueror, then do let us know. Our email address is on the screen and it's bophelong@sabc.co.za. So ask yourselves, what would you do if you had a bit of a sore throat today and woke up the next day with your voice gone? Not hoarse, but gone, as in for good. Well, this is the story of Constance Duli. The vibrant 28-year-old today stands tall among her peers as an inspiration and, of course, an achiever. Here is her story, produced by Nombuso Mahlangu.
It was on a typical Friday afternoon when 11-year-old Constance Duli came home from school complaining about a sore throat. Born and bred in Mamelodi, Constance's family did not foresee this horrendous episode happening to their daughter. After just eating a sweet from a local tuck shop, Constance fell ill. Rushed to hospital the following day, the young Constance was only given an injection and pills. Constance lost her voice the next day.
When I was about 11 years old and I got sick from a simple sore throat. Well, it was hard, but as I grew up and people around me giving me hope, I adapt well, though it gets hard at times.
To add insult to injury, Constance was then rejected by her former school.
Constance's birthday is in July. She was turning 11 years old. We took her to hospital. The doctor said it's mangles, an Afrikaans word for tonsils. They gave her an injection and pills. That's when she started becoming even more ill. Her mouth was pure white and her throat was closing up. She couldn't eat sitting in a normal position. She could only eat small portions of food, and the rest would fall out.
And then land pimbini wathola ukuthi ngathi lo mphimbo uvalekile ngoba uma umpha ukudla umhlalisa la then umuthi ikhanda then bese udla umdoko omncane omningi uthulukela phansi.
After all her efforts to find treatment for her daughter went in vain, Mme Mahlabane was advised by Dr. Larissa from Bophelong Hospital in Atteridgeville, west of Pretoria, to enroll Constance at a special school.
Dr. Larissa took us to the Pretoria school. They conducted an interview with Constance. There were 4 female hostels where they were taught different skills like cooking, preparing salads, and knitting. She was assessed before being admitted for catering.
Although rejected by her former school, Constance finally found a safe haven as she felt more comfortable at a new school.
Yeah, it was, but not at school like it was here at home.
Constance continued to have hope that her speech will return, and she refused to learn sign language.
Not really, and I didn't want to learn sign language at the time because I had hope of speaking again normally.
The special schools she attended, the Pretoria School and New Hope, enhanced her talent.
I remember an article on De Beeld written about Constance being an amazing one-hand cook, as she only used one hand for cooking and catering.
Her mother also began to see a good change in her daughter's life.
She is now comfortable and free around people since she started attending the special school.
Constance strives to be like any other person.
I refuse for her to write down when communicating to us. I can now hear her when she calls me from work. I always encourage her to be patient, that even if I ask for one thing 10 times, she must not be angry.
Usho ukuthi uphungaphandle leso sikhathi. But khona ungitshela ngithi mama ngibuyi namhlanje ngizabuya kusasa. Usho ukuthi sonke lesikhathi bengimuntu uthi nengikhuluma naye. Ngimtshele ngithi noma ngakubuza into kayi10 ungangikwateli ngoba ngani ngifuna ukuthola le ilimi lakho fanele libe lesimeni salo.
When asked about Constance's condition, Mema Shabani is uncertain about what caused the child's speech loss till today.
The doctors could not see anything. At Bophelong Hospital, they took 4 different blood tests, but yet there were no straight answers. They transferred her blood to HF Hospital, and the tests returned undefined.
From there bamthumela lapha nakhona HF HF bamthatha igazi nefana ba-check igazi lakhe babona inkinga yakhe zangathola ama-answer.
Stay tuned. After the ad break, we delve deeper into Constance Duli's story. This is Bophelong.
You ask?
This is who we are.
We are technologically driven.
We are unashamedly Afrocentric.
We advise you not only on legal matters,
but on health issues as well.
We bring imagination to life.
We celebrate arts and culture and lifestyle.
We tackle life challenges head on.
We dig deep. We probe. We question.
We invite you to take a view from our house, as we tell it without fear, separating fiction from factual.
We are the SABC News Channel.
All news, all global, all the time.
Eskom could miss a deadline for a crucial step towards turning on the Medupi power station. But the power utility says it will probably meet the December the 24th deadline.
We're looking good. We've come through 3 days, obviously, of load shedding, which has unfortunately been necessary, but it's been useful to have built up our reserves for the coming week.
Shares of private hospital group Netcare jumped up today and closed on a high after the company reported increased annual profits.
The hospital group is also taking steps to aggressively reduce its dependence on Eskom due to increasing power outages and rising costs.
We'll be reducing our energy needs by some 35% over the next 10 years, and our cumulative savings of our forecast electricity bill will be in the region of R1 billion. So we're doing something very constructive about the challenges we're facing at the moment.
That's Business News, weekdays at 6 p.m. on SABC News.
You look nicely dressed, PAC colors, you are not in agreement. Why was the president not allowed to address conference?
Even when he was given an opportunity, he did not stand up and say, look, I don't recognize this conference.
Why didn't you do that, Mr. Mpete?
I was never given any opportunity to speak there.
Mr. Mpete cannot come to the studio and complain about what transpired in the conference.
Did you say, Banna, I will pay for the PAC? When time comes for you to pay back the money, you will pay me back.
Yes. He's lying here.
That money is mine and I did not get it back.
This information,
and I want it
this
even
information
now.
Is
His deputy there, they took 430,000 without me. He said he's the general secretary, he's the accounting officer. Why on earth can the general secretary be the accounting officer? Yeah? It's what he did.
We'll come back. Watch Question Time with me, Mpho Said. Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Bophelong on the SABC News channel. In today's show, we're learning about augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC, because people who use devices meant for this also have plenty to say. AAC devices and software are produced overseas and cost a fortune. The devices are only programmed with only 2 speech options, British or American English.
Using only one hand to cook, eat, bath and type, Constance Duli lost her speech but made it her duty not to lose her voice.
Some say I'm forever smiling, but I think I can show my emotions.
Constance is giving back to the community. She's currently doing advocacy work for augmentative and alternative communications at the University of Pretoria.
So this program is run by the Center for AAC here at TAX. A group of young people from all over the country come for a whole week to TAX. We learn to use our AAC devices better. We become more empowered and start to dream for our life and make plans to reach our dream goals. FOFA is presented annually for 1 week here on main campus.
Well, like any success story, her journey was not easy.
I can say now it is good. But back then I had so many challenges everywhere. It was not a simple journey.
Confirming Constance's resistance, her cousin and best friend Mondli Malinga said her assertive ways has changed the way people look and approach disabled people.
She's a nice person, she has everything, but then she gets to a point where she just explodes. She gets angry at people who feel sorry for her.
Raising awareness is her primary goal, and this is how she goes about doing it.
I'm going around to different places and I do a lot of motivational talks about people who are using these devices as a way to say they say.
And with her motivational talks, she has a lot of disabled people thanking her for being a role model.
You would find people who are disabled and come to her and say, like, I'm amazed by the work that you do. You know, you're giving me that thingy that I should go out and do everything for myself and feel free and not be afraid of anything else.
Her plans for the future are not too vague, like Martin Pistorius, who also lost his speech at the age of 12 due to meningitis. Pistorius wrote a book called The Ghost Boy, as he was teased a lot for not having a voice, and Constance also has plans to write her memoir.
Well, I have quite a few planned, like writing a book and carrying on with being a motivation speaker, as I now am an advocate and a lead committee person for an international program.
Despite losing her speech, she also faced a traumatic experience after being raped as a child. She spoke about her ordeal in one of the talks she had recently.
It's a great honor being here in front of people who are working together towards the abuse of children and adults living with a disability in our country, and making it a better and a safe place to live and knowing that there are people who cares. This young, beautiful, bubbly, shy, and also always fashionable young lady from Pretoria, Mamelodi East, famously known as Constance and truly now really famous for my words. All thanks to a Drum magazine article one would have thought. Regards maybe. Paparazzi people, every word I found loud it would be the fame of why did I mention how nervous I am. Gosh, a presentation I have ever done, but I never aim for disappointment, so please sit back and relax. Just do not fall asleep. Laugh out loud. My talk today is a very personal one, of which I don't talk about. I am happy and strong enough to share it with you because I would really like to see more change in the lives of people living with a physical challenge. Not being able to speak do not mean we don't have nothing to say. I am a survivor of child rape living today with the aim of helping other people with a disability to come out and talk about the bad experiences happened to them. But this is happening all over. And I salute each one of you here today learning and ready to change the life of disabled victims and abuse. Most children who are Protective Services CPS agency are involved just once with CPS during their lives. Some of these children are found to have been re-victimized recurrence. Most previous studies of subsequent reports alleging maltreatment. How are we really doing? But it does not have an easy answer.
Mentoring and leading an international committee, Constance is ready to conquer the world.
Constance is such an inspiration, using her assisted voice to empower others and herself. So if you have a voice that didn't cost you over 30,000 rands, what's stopping you from making a difference in your life and your community? Don't go anywhere. After the ad break on Bophelong, we'll hear from Juan Bornman, who heads up the University of Pretoria's Center for Augmentative and Alternative Communications.
Who are we, you ask?
This is who we are.
We are technologically driven.
We are unashamedly Afrocentric.
We advise you not only on legal matters,
but on health issues as well.
We bring imagination to life.
We celebrate arts and culture and lifestyle.
We tackle life challenges head on.
We dig deep. We probe. We question.
We invite you to take a view from our house as we tell it without fear, separating fiction from factual.
We are the SABC News Channel.
All news, all global, all the time.
Eskom could miss a deadline for a crucial step towards turning on the Medupi power station. But the power utility says it will probably meet the December the 24th deadline.
We're looking good. We've come through 3 days, obviously, of load shedding, which has unfortunately been necessary, but it's been useful to have built up our reserves for the coming week.
Shares of private hospital group Netcare jumped up today and closed on a high after the company reported increased annual profits.
The hospital group is also taking steps to aggressively reduce its dependence on Eskom due to increasing power outages and rising costs.
We'll be reducing our energy needs by some 35% over the next 10 years, and our cumulative savings of our forecast electricity bill will be in the region of R1 billion. So we're doing something very constructive about the challenges we're facing at the moment.
That's business news, weekdays at 6 p.m. on SABC News.
Hello, and if you've just joined us, welcome to the last stretch of Bophelong today, where we profile people who take on life's challenges and come out victorious, like Constance Duli, who spent a day with our producer. The director of the CAAC, Professor Juan Bornman, spoke to us on precisely what it is that they do, their most immediate challenges, and the advocacy work that they do.
Can you please explain to us what augmentative and alternative communications is?
Basically, AAC, or Augmentative and Alternative Communication, refers to all of the other means of communication that people use to communicate. So all of the things that typically speaking people would also use, but just to a lesser degree. So what we do is we basically divide them into what we call aided systems and unaided. And all of the unaided systems means where you only need your body to be able to communicate. So that would be things like facial expressions, that would be using signs from sign language, and in South Africa we use South African Sign Language. It could just be using natural gestures, things like watch out or come here or goodbye, things that we commonly use. speech is a form of unaided communication. And then on the other hand, if we look at all of the different aided forms of communication, that is where we would need something in addition to our bodies.
One of the things that we use is communication aids, specifically also for those people who cannot maybe use sign language, for example. They might not have enough motor abilities to do that. So when we're thinking about communication aids, the first thing that we think about is what kind of symbols can we use to represent a certain message. And that also depends on the person's cognitive abilities. So with very young children, we would often start with object symbols. So for example, this would be a symbol for bubbles. We often start with what we call picture symbols or line drawing symbols. And this is one example. Where we have picture communication symbols. Here you see them. We've also got some photographs in between. But for example, here you see a sentence, I want Maury biscuit. Eventually what we want them to get to is orthography. So the letters of the alphabet, if a person is literate, they can actually just have these letters and they can spell any message they want to convey to you.
And then in terms of Constance's case, how do you then assess the type of device or alternative communication to give to your client or patient?
Okay, when we do the assessment, there's a whole range of different things that we have to consider, and we look at all kinds of different skill areas. So we would need to first of all get an idea of what the person's sensory skills are. In Constance's case, she can both hear and see, so that opens up particular systems, whereas if we have an individual that is deaf-blind, for example, we need to make other considerations. Then we also have to look at their motor skills, and the motor skills involved in selecting a communication system is primarily involved around your fine motor movements. So can you type with the device? So can you use your fingers to isolate? Or for some individuals, they would actually need to use some form of scanning device. So if you are only able to use an eye blink, we might need to use a switch that works with an eye blink. Or if it's somebody that doesn't have good upper motor control, that person might need to use, for example, a head stick or a chin switch so that they can access the communication device. So we have to look at sensory skills, at motor skills.
What are some of the factors that can cause speech loss?
There's a whole range of different reasons. For some individuals, there are certain what we say congenital conditions. So that would mean things that are present from birth, and that could be factors such as being born with the intellectual impairment. Conditions like Down syndrome, for example, might cause it for some individuals. Children that have fetal alcohol syndrome sometimes battle with communication. Then there could also be motor problems. For example, individuals that have cerebral palsy, as I said before, deaf-blind individuals. So there's a whole range of congenital issues.
And what programs do you run?
A lot of different programs. Here at the center, which is the only center of its kind in Africa, we actually work on 3 different broad areas. The first one is on research, because we feel that research needs to inform practice, as practice also informs research. And then we have a training component where we offer lots of different degrees. We have 5-degree programs for people literally from teachers to lawyers to speech pathologists, all of them wanting to have more skills specifically related to AAC. And then we also have a lot of community outreach programs.
What would you like South Africa to know about AAC? I mean, is it spoken about? Or is it still taboo to hear of such a case of a person just losing their speech?
I think it's something that people are starting to talk more and more about. And I think the most important thing that we have to consider is that we should look beyond the disability. I think for too long we have been stuck on looking at the disability and not seeing the person behind the disability. Here in the center we always have a saying that we don't want to look at a beautiful rose bush and then say, oh, look at all of the thorns on this rose bush is so ugly. To rather say, look at the thorn thorn bush, but see that it also has these beautiful flowers. In the center we have, it's a multidisciplinary team, which means that we all have different professional backgrounds. So we have speech pathologists, occupational therapists, psychologists, teachers, and we also have some disability advocates. And Constance is a very good example of that, because we really need to have people that can go out and be our face and ears, because if Constance explains to somebody what it's like to not have a voice that she can rely on, it just has so much more impact than when one of us that is able to use our natural voices to communicate and tell about what the impact is of a communication impairment. So we use her extensively to write about this for newspapers, to actually raise awareness and to give people hope.
Thank you to Juan Borman for her time. Some great work that they do, and one can only hope that as more voices speak up about the very real necessity it is for people needing these devices, South African manufacturers will also take a note and do something about it. Well, that's how we come to the end of the program for today. Thank you to Constance, her family and her friends who spoke with us. Join me, Refil Wemwilwa, again next week for more real, untold stories of people's lives who make the choice every single day to not let their challenges define their lives.
Didier Drogba, a footballer from Ivory Coast, was named as the third most influential celebrity in Africa.
Where I saw him display, he's very nice player. He always make an impact.
Drogba donated his $5 million endorsement fee to the construction of a hospital in Abidjan.
Well, there are some lesser known football stars in the continent that you haven't met.
Really?
And are deserving of more attention.
I think we will do better.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
Should marijuana be legalized in South Africa or not?
The legalization of dagga is a no to our country. Look at the rate of rape in our country because of people that
But you can't say dagga makes people
that
get
are under
raped
the influence of dagga.
When a young man comes to you